It's no secret that reloading before the magazine is empty will save you a decent chunk of time, with up to almost a whole second shaved off for reloading when using the Spitfire. But this isn't the only trick that you can use for reloading in order to save time and stay in the fight. The second part, which actually can and should be used in tandem with the so-called tactical reloads, is animation cancelling the reload. This effect is minuscule in some cases, but when you are fighting, every single millisecond counts. The secret is just swapping the gun to a secondary or your melee right when the ammo counter in the bottom resets to a full magazine, and then immediately switching back. This video was inspired by a Reddit post by Henning, which may have been inspired by the School of Action challenges, where the world record holders shaved off crucial seconds from the record by swapping the scout and reducing the reload time significantly. That being said, the original post by Henning only highlighted some guns and didn't really go in depth with numbers or other details, so I decided to take it to the next level. When going through his Reddit post and running my own experiments, I realized something. What happens if you add a stock to a gun for the animation cancel? In his initial post, Henning claimed that it only worked with certain guns, and these specific guns had one thing in common: you could not equip a stock on them. And the thing is, having a stock makes the switch speed and reload time faster. Specifically, a purple stock makes the draw time 20% faster and reload time 10% faster. So in theory, it could make the animation cancel faster and maybe even more efficient. I was correct. I decided to use some data I had found on the internet as a baseline and then start running my own experiments, measuring the time between starting a reload, which is when the crosshair grays out, and until I fire the first shot and muzzle flash leaves the gun. And I can ensure that the bullet leaves the gun as fast as humanly possible by either spamming the button or just holding mouse 1 if it's an automatic gun. In order to do this, I had to record a lot of footage in the firing range and then make a lot of manual work to put this all into a spreadsheet. I cannot understate how much I actually spent on this. I am really tired right now. Anyways, the results may surprise you because not only is it fast to animation cancel your reload, but in some cases, animation canceling a reload is faster than tactically reloading a fully equipped gun. Let's take a deep dive into the results. Starting with the Havoc, there's no difference between a full reload and a tactical reload, but an animation cancel still shaves off almost an entire second on the reload. That's because no matter whether you tactically reload or just reload normally, your character will do this weird animation at the end of it. The flatline has a decent difference between the default and tactical reload, but you still gain another half a second from the cancel. The Hemlock is pretty standard and gives about half a second with an animation cancel. What's funny though is that the R31 has the exact same tactical reload time as the Hemlock, but the animation cancel takes away an extra 200 milliseconds. This leads me to believe that there aren't any rules between the rifles or weapon types, just individually set values. As you can see, the alternator doesn't benefit too much from the animation cancel. The Prowler brings us back to another half of a second benefit from the technique. The R99's tactical reload is already insanely fast and animation timing is a bit hard to nail, and I got around 100 millisecond faster of a reload by doing this. I honestly don't think it's worth the risk. The Volt is another weapon that's incredibly fast to reload without much benefit from an animation cancel. The Car SMG also has a sub 100 millisecond difference, leading me to believe this technique isn't that useful for stocked SMGs. The Spitfire, however, shaves off a whole second with the animation cancel, and it feels just like the Rampart passive when you do this. You would assume that the Rampage would have something like this 1 second reload boost, but it appears to do very little. The G7 Scout gives you a few hundred milliseconds, which is useful especially with the School of Action challenge, where they can add up to over a whole second of time saved over the course of the entire challenge. The Triple Take has about the same benefit, but I would argue that snipers and marksman rifles don't really benefit from this that much anyways. Unless you're lighting up someone that's completely exposing themselves and you need to reload as quick as possible, you're never really gonna have to worry about reloading a little bit faster. Because of the nature of the guns, you can't cancel the 30-30 repeater, the Bocek bow, L-Star, or the Mastiff for very obvious reasons. I tried cancelling the L-Star overheat animation, but I didn't find any significant or consistent difference. Looking at snipers, the charge rifle is a bit iffy to animation cancel and you don't really get anything out of it. We're looking at about 100 milliseconds of time saved. However, the longbow gives you a few hundred milliseconds and is well timed with the reload animation, and it doesn't really take that long to get used to it. As is the Kraber, and the Kraber's tactical reload animation can save you about half of a second of reload time. Keep in mind that you can't cancel pulling back the bolt between every shot. The Sentinel didn't seem to have any significant change, and is about the same as when you don't animation cancel. When we're looking at shotguns, there obviously won't be any stocks in the equation, but there is still plenty of valuable guns to animation cancel with. The EVA 8 gives you a few hundred milliseconds with an animation cancel. And the same goes for the Mozambique, shaving off at about 300 milliseconds off your reload. However, the Peacekeeper benefits not only the most out of the shotguns, but it's probably one of the most beneficial guns to animation cancel with, giving you over a half a second with a 700 milliseconds shaved off the animation time. And finally, looking at the pistols, the Reddit user mentioned that there was a crazy benefit for the RE45, but when I measure it, it was just about 200 milliseconds. And unless I'm doing something wrong when animation canceling the wingman, it's actually almost identical to not using a reload cancel at all. Finally, the P2020 removes less than 100 milliseconds, so there's not really much important there. A funny observation I made when measuring all of this is that animation canceling a gun that has a stock may make you fire way before the animation actually finishes. You can fire a shot while your gun is barely visible on the screen. The difference is absolutely crazy in slow motion. Take a look at the R9, for example. There's always a risk in doing these movements. The closer you get, the higher the risk is of you accidentally swapping too early, and you end up spending more time on your reload than if you hadn't attempted the animation cancel in the first time. As such, you could argue that this is a skill-based technique, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this in the comments. I'm fully aware that I just info-bombed you guys, and I am very sorry for that. I will make up for it by giving you this nifty guide separating the different levels of animation cancel to know when it's worth it, when it's really good, and when you really just shouldn't bother. First off, we have the best guns animation cancel to reload on, where there's a huge difference between the default gun without a stock's tactical reload and its animation cancel. I'll be counting the guns from 500 milliseconds and upwards. We have the Spitfire, the Havoc, the R301, G7 Scout, and the Peacekeeper. The second tier basically lists any gun between a 200 to 500 millisecond bracket. I'd argue that when you're going under 200 milliseconds, the risk to reward ratio stops it from really being worth attempting. In this tier, we have guns such as the Flatline, Hemlock, Devotion, Prowler, Kraber, Eva 8, Mozambique, Longbow, Triple Take, RE45, and the Alternator. If the guns haven't been listed in these two tiers, they are barely worth considering, but I'll introduce one more tier, which is the don't even bother to try this tier. You could practice the timings and still get a little bit of an edge, but you will risk locking up your gun and it will end up costing you a lot more than what you can gain. I couldn't even consistently pull this off, and I can't honestly get a solid number as for how fast the animation cancel would be. Avoid animation canceling the reload on the following guns, which have less than 100 milliseconds difference. That will be the Charge Rifle, Sentinel, P2020, Rampage, Car SMG, and finally the Volt. This is the result of several hours of mind-numbing research. I'm hoping that you guys did enjoy the video and dropped a like if you did watch this far. As a massive thank you for watching this far, here's a full spreadsheet to show the recording timings, showing the default reload time, default tactical reload time, the animation cancel reload time without the stock, the full reload time with a purple stock, tactical reload with a stock, and finally the animation cancel speed with a stock on. I hope you guys will be able to make something more out of this than I did. The timings aren't 100% perfect since I was crunching these out in one sitting, but it's all still fairly accurate. If you guys see any big flaws in the timings, let me know in the comments so I can fix it on my spreadsheet side. If you guys want to see more educational content, I just released a recoil guide which shows you how to have virtually no recoil in Apex. That video is available on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.